Hello again. All right, so I've got a couple things knocked out. Last one was the wheel bearings. Initially, we were pushing it and it was still really hard to push. And then randomly, we were pushing it back into the shop after working on another car and it freed up. So I know that you shouldn't really be pushing a car without axles in it, and that's very likely what's going on. But I went ahead and just measured it anyway with a hanging scale. I'm gonna cut to a video of that real quick. And you can kind of see like there's definitely some flat spots. It gets harder and then it goes back to about 30 pounds. That 30 pounds feels about how it should feel when you're pulling on a car. That feels pretty normal for a car without an engine. But I wouldn't worry too much about it just because there's no axles in it. So it's definitely not rolling correctly. Little few projects before we pop the motor in. I'm considering working on the dash. It's pretty beat up. I bet it's probably gonna get pushed to the side. I don't know if I'm gonna mess with it, but what I definitely do need to mess with is, so two major projects here. For starters, I've got to get the taillights working. So taillights and brake lights and turn signals. He had some like bare minimum wire ran just so the brake lights I guess would work on for whatever reason, because none of the taillights worked. So I think I'm gonna reuse the harness. It's not super molested, like it's in pretty good shape, and then I could just use all of the wiring in the loom as opposed to having to rerun like my own loom. The connection fittings are all up there, so I would just need to go in, see if I could find a manual and figure out which wire is which. It's not a huge process, but it's just annoying. So that's project one. And then project two is this right here. So for now, I'm gonna keep the Kirky. I found some padding that you can put in that makes it a little bit easier of a seat to use. And it is, you know, a seat that's set up for racing. It is safe and it's already here. So that's a plus. The only problem is you can't really see it, but where the seat, it's not centered to the wheel, and it's noticeable when you're sitting. Like your sitting position is about like there, and it just feels a little bit off. And if you look, the crossbar for the cage comes over the head, and it's not great for safety. So the plan is to take the seat, take it off the brackets, figure out, because what I can see part of the issue here is if you look, the brackets are like up onto the corner and it's sort of tilting the seat. So I need to make a flat spot so that the seat sits flush. And super doing a burnout. So the seats fit flush, and I can bring the whole assembly over a little bit, which will center it and then get my head away from the crossbar. Yeah, that's a good shot. You can see like that's not great. So yeah, that's the plan, and probably start on that one because I don't want to play with electrical. Okay, I got the seat out. It's starting to make a little bit more sense. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the brackets out, and then I'm gonna do some angled steel, just like, it's like channeled steel, like a channeled bar. I'm sure I'll figure out the name eventually, but it's steel that is channeled like a U-channel, and then I'm gonna position it laterally, and I'm gonna level it, make sure it's even, and then I'm gonna just use the pilot holes for my positioning, but then center it about here, same side on both sides. And what that'll do is it'll give me the movement over that I want. And then I'm gonna go in and do the holes on the bracket. So I guess tack, get the positioning, do the holes, Then I can do seat position with the seat on the brackets. And then I can figure this out. And I'm starting to feel better about how this is gonna work with some flat steel, and then just kind of like, you know, I have to consider rigidity, but just something that gives me a little bit of gap, because I don't want to drill any more holes in this or the seat. So yeah, that's the plan. Create a level surface for the seat rails. Make sure I have room to shift it over a little bit. I'm going to bring it forward a tad, which will create the gap there and should put me sitting right where I want. It's still gonna be not perfect, and my head's gonna still be kind of close, but as long as I'm strapped down hard with the harness, I shouldn't, you know, I can test for any kind of movement and make sure I don't have any head issues. Okay, that's the plan. Hello. Here is the steel we're gonna be using for the seat rails. I got 2 4-foot sections. Got 1.5 inches, which should be plenty. You know, I'm a little concerned with some flex on the channel on the steel, but I have some ideas for that. The first step for me though is gonna be just repairing, I don't know, 30 years now of somebody just putting holes in the floorboard. I mean, there's just little tiny holes drilled everywhere. And they all serve zero purpose other than to let water in and cause issues. There's also a few, not horribly rusty spots, but like beginning. So I'm going to break all this down, just any spots that have rust. I'm going to take the fuel lines out, and then I'm going to repair all of the holes before I start on the seat rails. So I'm going to fix the underbody, get that done, and then I will work on the seat rails. Hello again. All right, what we're looking at is the beginning of how I'm gonna do the seat rails. So the challenge I needed to overcome was that anything I put into the floor, the surface is gonna be really off. He had some like washers, because this part right here is humped, so it creates a lower spot. And it just doesn't make it a great surface. So my plan was to take these C-channel steel, lay it across, grind it down some area here, and just weld it in. And that'll give me a nice level surface to mount the seats and do my adjustments. Because if these two are flat and level, then I'll be able to move the seat rail backwards, forwards, and I can move the seat up and down. So this is going to give me a whole bunch of adjustment. You know, these are the rail here and the rail here are strong, but it's probably still a little bit more load than I'm gonna want. So the plan is to drill some holes at the corners of the rails and drop in some posts, small steel posts, which will give it some vertical rigidity. I mean, it's C-channel, so it is good at maintaining strength and rigidity, you know, up and down if it's laid flat like this. That's why I got the C-channel. But I'd still like it to be even better, because the problem is that even though the steel might not flex, there's going to be so much load, it might pull in on the rails and could damage the seat rails. I'm sorry, the frame rails. So it would be best just to lock in some anchors, and just a small amount of steel there will give it the rigidity it needs. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna pull these out, do some holes, and then I'm also gonna do a single hole here for the in the center for the 5-point seatbelt, because you gotta have somewhere to anchor it under there, and it's a good spot as any. So yeah, that's the plan. Get back when I've got the holes drilled and the area prepped. Okay, the rails are set up. I got the holes drilled. At least some of the holes. I've got the area prepped for welding, and then I've got these little inserts set up. So that's obviously not the height, it just gives you an idea. I'm gonna mark it, cut it, weld, and then weld, and that should give me some of the vertical support that I need. Next step now is to get out the level and make sure everything is level. Yeah, and then I'm gonna tack, and I think I think the plan is to put the brackets on, get the seat all set up, and then just break off the tack and weld with the drill press. I'm sorry, drill with the drill press, but the laziness might get the better of me, and I might just hit it with the hand drill for the seat bracket holes, but it's all good. So I'm gonna get this set up and give it a go. Okay, seat brackets are tacked up. They're within a degree of every angle, or at least they were when I started the tack. You know, the seat rails sit pretty flat, so I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I'm gonna keep moving forward. I am probably just gonna drill the holes with it in the car before as opposed to taking them out and hitting them on the drill press. I feel like getting the holes marked, knocking off the tacks, taking it to the drill press, and getting it back in the same place is probably not as good. It is not going to have as good a result as if I just drill it now, because it took a decent amount of time just to get this perfect, and getting it back in there while maintaining the exact spot I need for the bracket seems like it's going to be really tricky. So I'm going to probably put a few more tacks in, make sure this is really locked down. I'm not going to make it permanent yet, just because you never know what you find when you go to check your angles, but I'm going to put a few more tacks in, get it so that it won't move when I put some weight on it, so I can actually sit on these. And then I'm going to put the rails back together onto the seats, and put the seat back on the, cross brace, or whatever we're calling this, and check my seating position. So the seat rails are finished, at least before I drill the holes. I got the posts welded to the rails and to the floor, and then I coated it with some paint and sealed everything up. Hello. All right, so I've got the holes figured out, got everything mocked up, just got done drilling. I'm gonna deburr just the holes because they're sharp from drilling, and then put the bolts in, and the seat will be locked down. Actually, there is one last thing. So there's two things. The seat will be in its place. I want to make sure everything fits. Then I'm going to take it back out and chop this and get some DOM piping that's already pie cut, because I don't feel like doing not pie cut, notched, because I don't want to do that myself. And I'm going to transfer the bracket or make a new one, and then get that bolted. And then the only other thing was, I initially had done that hole to do like an eyelet for a C-clip or something, for just something to put the seatbelt on. But what I realized is a perfectly good option is to just wrap the belt around the frame of the seat rail. That'll allow it to move side to side if need, and then it'll also keep it from having to be on one single spot. The only thing I need to be really careful of is that it doesn't chafe the seat belt. So either I need to put like a piece of plastic there, just like print something as like a slider, or it's actually not even a huge deal because it is smooth on the bottom. It's not like it's sharp, but it's just good form, Okay, I'm gonna finish bolting this down and get some shots of it finalized. All right, this is seating position. Seat is locked in, rails are down, everything should be about where it needs to be. This is like pretty good. The little bit shifted to the center, but that's kind of what we were going for. You can kind of see this doesn't really do it justice. It's maybe a little better. You can see the distance from my head. And then the other bar is going to be right up there. So with my helmet on, I shouldn't be anywhere near the crossbars. And then that should be good. I'm gonna put a pin in this one for now because I need to come back and do the bar there. But I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm gonna lock this one down, and then it's time to move on to getting the engine in.